Good day. We're coming on the air with breaking news. President Biden's son, Hunter, spending the morning in a Delaware federal courthouse. He was there to enter a plea agreement over federal tax charges. It should have been fairly quick, fairly routine. It was not. Instead, after some tense moments, some apparent confusion, some back and forth with the prosecutor, the defense, and the judge, a plea deal has not been reached because of some concerns that the judge has. Instead, the president's son has entered a not guilty plea for now. This is the first time a sitting president's son has faced federal charges. They come after a 5-year investigation from the Justice Department, which resulted in 2 misdemeanor counts against Hunter Biden for failing to pay his taxes in both 2017 and 2018. Hunter Biden is also facing a separate felony gun possession charge that's expected to be dismissed if he meets certain conditions. However, outside of specific tax, drug, and gun charges in this plea agreement, which again has not been finalized, it appears possible that Hunter Biden could still be charged with other crimes down the road. The prosecutors today made very clear this investigation is ongoing. This is a legal matter, of course, for the president's son, but it has become a political one, too, in a big and significant and potentially controversial way. Now, remember, these are federal charges. That means no cameras in court, but our Ryan Nobles was inside for all of this. And, Ryan, this was unexpected drama, no clear resolution as we speak, other than we are not reporting, right, that Hunter Biden entered this plea deal. It hasn't happened.
That's exactly right, Hallie. I mean, this was a stunning development by any measure. The president's son and his legal team had really hoped that today would mark the end of their legal troubles, that he would be able to move on with his life and in some respects allow his father, the president of the United States, to not have to deal with this political distraction. But it was exactly the opposite. Very early on in this proceeding, we could tell by the questions being asked by the federal judge in this case, Mary Ellen New York, that she was very concerned with the arrangement that had been worked out between prosecutors and Hunter Biden's legal team. It was 2 separate agreements, one that would allow Biden to plead guilty on 2 different tax charges for his failure to pay taxes in the years 2017 and 2018, and then separately that he would enter into a pretrial diversion program that would, over the course of 2 years, allow a pending gun charge, a charge that he was in possession of a firearm while using drugs, which is against the law, that pending charge would be dismissed if he successfully completes that diversion program. Well, the judge was concerned, A, that these 2 separate issues were being connected, even though at one point Hunter Biden said that he was willing to plead not guilty with the clear understanding that they were not connected, but also separately that it was the judge who would be in position to determine whether or not he was in violation of that diversion program. That is something that normally a federal judge is not responsible for. That's an agreement worked out with a prosecutor and a defendant in a case like this. Regardless, because she had all of these questions and because she felt that despite the fact that we were in that courtroom for almost 3 hours, I think a little more than 3 hours, that these both the attorneys for both the prosecutor and for the defendant were not able to answer the questions in a way that she felt were sufficient to make her feel comfortable, she decided that she needed to defer her decision on the plea agreement. Now, that meant that Hunter Biden then had to plead not guilty in this particular case so that they can continue to work out those issues. Now, there are still a lot of open questions that have yet to be resolved in this case, Hallie. At this point, they have not set a date where the prosecutors, the defendants, and the judge will come together once again to discuss the next stage of this plea arrangement. They're going to have to provide her with a lot of information to convince her that the parameters that they've outlined are appropriate. And then, as you rightly point out, what was revealed in court today in a great deal of specificity is that this agreement is for a very narrow window of time and specifically related just to these tax charges and these gun charges, and that there is still the possibility that the president's son is being investigated on a whole host of other issues or could potentially find himself on the wrong side of the law in many other aspects. So if there was any hope that this was going to be the end of these legal issues for Hunter Biden and, by extension, his father, that it was all going to come to a close today, that certainly was not resolved in any way, shape, or form. Hallie? And
at this point, it's not even clear when it will get resolved, Ryan, because the timeline question is also still an open one. So to be crystal clear, so that folks understand this, and we're going to go to some of our legal experts in just a second here. Essentially, this plea agreement consisted of 2 buckets, let's call them, one on taxes and one on this gun charge. The judge's most concern was on that second bucket. She has questions, so she's not approving this until she can better understand this. That is why Hunter Biden entered that not guilty plea, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, the judge felt that constitutionally she should not be the one responsible to be the arbiter of whether or not Hunter Biden was abiding by the provisions that they outlined in this diversion program. And she said many times that normally when a diversion program is agreed to by the two sides, that a federal judge or a judge of any kind is not even made aware of that this is an agreement that the two sides work out and that the bench is not involved in it. This is a situation where, and Hunter Biden's lawyer admitted this in open court, that because of the political considerations surrounding this issue, because there's so much attention being paid to Hunter Biden and the accusations that the Department of Justice may have been giving him preferential treatment, that they wanted a third-party independent arbiter to make it clear if he was in violation of that diversion program, that it was somebody that didn't necessarily have a dog in the fight. She said she understood that, but she also said she didn't think that the Constitution allowed her that ability because of separation of powers. It's not the responsibility of the judicial branch to say it's time to move forward with the prosecution. That's the responsibility of the executive branch and the Attorney General's office. So that's why she was so concerned about this, and she just did not want Hunter Biden to agree to something that ultimately could come back to haunt him in the long run. She wanted to make sure that he was 100% comfortable with this idea of pleading guilty to these charges and understood everything that was involved in it.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.